You definitely know about the Enigma machine, the machine used by Nazis in World War II to encrypt their communications. And if you do, then you also know about Alan Turing, the mathematician that helped win the war by cracking Enigma. That was one of the most iconic hackings, if you want to call it that, of all time. Now, fast forward to today, we use encryption everywhere, from online banking, payments, web browsing, shopping, basically everything, right? It's at the heart of our digital world. So if cryptography is so critical, can we assume it is secure too? Can it be broken? As in most questions, the answer is it depends. It's not that simple. Modern cryptography is really hard to break. It uses really long keys that require an enormous amount of computing power to crack, right? So just an example, if you take AES 128, it would take longer than the age of the universe if you wanted to try all the keys until you find the correct one to decrypt the message. However, it's also true that algorithms that we thought secure in the past, with today's computing power can now be cracked in essentially seconds. Every cryptography algorithm in use today is, in principle, crackable with enough computing power. All of them, except one. Before talking about that Unbreakable algorithm, let's quickly refresh what it means to encrypt a message. Feel free to skip this part if you are already familiar with encryption. First, let's think about how it works at a high level. We have a message. Sometimes we call this just plain text. And we want to make this message readable only by those who know the secret key. So we use the key to scramble the message, and this produces what is called a ciphertext. Okay, how you scramble the message depends on your cryptographic algorithm. There are so many different encryption algorithms, each with their own characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses. Actually, let me show you one of them. Let's pick the Caesar Cypher, just because it's one of the simplest ones and oldest ones and weakest ones. Okay, so the Caesar Cypher works by shifting the letters in the message by a fixed amount. Let's say we want to encrypt the word hello. So the message, our message is hello. We pick a secret key that we will need to share with the recipient. Let's say our key is a number in this case. Let's say we pick number 3. So what we're going to do, we're going to displace this alphabet by 3 positions. So now if we want to encrypt this, we can do it like this. We find the H here. This corresponds to a K in the cipher. The E corresponds to an H. L corresponds to an O. And the O corresponds to an R. Okay, so our message, hello, becomes KHOOR. Simple, but how secure is it? It's not difficult to guess that there are several problems with the Caesar Cypher. There are at least 3 problems. The first one is there are very few possible keys. So the English alphabet has 26 letters, so there are only 25 different possible keys. A computer could try all the combinations in less than a second. This can be solved by using longer keys, which modern algorithms do, but we have other problems. The second problem is there are fewer keys than possible messages. This is a little bit technical. This means that for a given ciphertext, there are some plain texts that cannot be produced no matter which key is used. For example, here, just by looking at this ciphertext, we don't know what the message is, okay? But we can take some guesses. For example, we know that the message cannot be the word actor. And that's because just by looking at ciphertext, we can notice that in the message, we must have a duplicate letter here, where we have these O's, okay? Essentially, the cipher doesn't cover the entire space of possible messages. And this can help an attacker focus on specific set of messages or exclude some possibilities. We also have a third problem. The third problem is that we can use probabilities to make guesses. Some letters in English appear more frequently than others. For example, again, in English, E is the most common letter in text. So this means that if we see a lot of M's in the ciphertext, we can guess that they were originally E's, right? The ciphertext is giving us information about the original message. This is terrible. You may think about encrypting the message multiple times to at least alleviate these problems, but it doesn't change anything. If you encrypt the ciphertext again with a different key, you can see it's as if you picked a different key in the first place and you encrypted it just once with a key which is the sum of the two keys. You can easily test this, so you don't really get anything better out of it. Now that said, all the encryption algorithms suffer from at least some of these three flaws, except for one algorithm, which is called the one-time pad. So one-time pad is a cryptographic method invented more than a century ago, and it has this incredible feature: it's mathematically perfect. It cannot be cracked, period. And on top of that, it's one of the simplest encryption algorithms that you can possibly have, ever. So let's see how it works. You want to send a message. Again, let's pick hello. Now to encrypt it with the one-time pad, you need a secret key, which is as long as the message. So we have a key here, and we'll pick a key at random. It's very important for the key to be random in this case. Let's pick X, M, C, K, L, okay? And then the ciphertext, we find the ciphertext by combining the first letter of the message with the first letter of the key. And we combine them basically by summing them in modulo. We don't have to look at the details. I prepared here a grid that we can use. So we combine the H with the X. We find the H here. We find the X here, and the intersection is the E. So that's the first letter. Then an E with an M, which is a Q, an L with a C, it's an N, an L with a K, it's a V, and an O with an L, which is a Z. Okay, so this ciphertext looks completely random. If you want to decrypt it, so let's say you received the key and the ciphertext, you want to reconstruct the message, you just follow the same instructions in reverse. So you have an X, you go on until you find the E, and you look where you are, this is an H, right? And again, you repeat the process and you get back hello. Now let's see why one-time pad is unbreakable. The magic lies in the fact that if the key is truly random, and this is very important, the keys must be random, and if it's used only once, then anyone trying to decrypt the message has no clues. Every possible plain text is equally likely. Mathematically, we can say that the probability of a message given the ciphertext is equal to the probability of the original message. You can actually prove this with just some basic knowledge of probabilities. This means that the ciphertext provides no information about the original message. Perfect, right? Now, to understand the power of this, let's put ourselves in the hacker's shoes for a second. We see this ciphertext, PAPQV. We don't know what it is, but it's short enough, so we can take a bunch of computers and just test all the possible keys until we find the correct one. However, look at this. We find a key that, when applied to our ciphertext, gives a message that says hello. So we're happy, we cracked it. But then, just to be sure, we keep checking the remaining keys, and we find another one that corresponds to the word pizza. And then another one for the word video, and so on for all existing and made up 5-letter words. Which one was the real message? It could be any of them. There is no way that we can know. Crazy, right? But if it's so perfect, why don't we use it everywhere? Well, the problem is the key. The key needs to meet a few requirements. The key must be as long as the message, it must be completely random, and it must be securely shared between the two parties, between the sender and the recipient. So being as long as the message is critical, because you don't want to end up reusing parts of your key, but that alone doesn't guarantee you anything. You also need the key to be random, and I mean truly random. Pseudo-random generators are not enough if you want perfect security. And then the main challenge: how do you share a key without risking interception? This is not just any key, this is a very long key. And then the key must be as long as the message. So what do you do after you use all of it? You need to go back and exchange a new one. Are you going to do that? So these are the main reasons why one-time pad is almost never used. It's very, very impractical. Current algorithms are imperfect, but they are not going to be broken anytime soon, not even by governments. So you don't have to worry. But it's fascinating to know that a mathematically perfect encryption algorithm exists. As we said, one of the main problems of one-time pad is exchanging the secret key. So in one of the next videos, I'm going to talk about how we can use an approach which is revolutionary, quantum cryptography, to share a key using the weird properties of quantum mechanics. Now, to conclude, I just wanted to say that, as you probably noticed, this is a small channel, a tiny channel, a microscopic channel. So I just wanted to spend a few seconds saying thank you for your support.